page 7. It's the 10th lesson. Today is, now it is 28th of Shawwal, 1437, 1st of August, 2016. The Sutra and the obligation to have one. The Sutra, the note says, the literal meaning is screen or cover. In the context of prayer, it refers to an object just beyond the place of prostration within which nothing should pass, as is detailed in this section. He ﷺ used to stand near the Sutra so that there was a distance of 3 cubits between him and the wall, and between the place of his prostration and the wall there was enough space for a sheep to pass. He used to say, "Do not pray except towards the Sutra, and do not let anyone pass in front of you. But if someone continues to try to pass, then fight him, for he has a companion, that is Shaitan, with him."
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa salatu wa salamu ala ashrafil mursaleen, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in, wa ala man tabi'a hudahum ila yawmiddin. Shaykh Rahimahullah Muhammad Nasiruddin Albani makes a title in his book, As-Sutra wa Wujuh. As-Sutra and its compulsion. As-Sutra, as the doctor here described, and he read for us the meaning of it in English. Sutra is a shield, and it is to cover you from something that would pass in front of you. And it's from the word satara. Satara is to cover. And when you talk about the clothes as well, is that you say that this is what I'm covering myself with. Satartu nafsi bi. And here the sutra is basically to prevent any person to break off your prayer between yourself and your prostration. And this sutra is made for a number of facts. Number one is to give the respect for the space of the person who prays. Number two, to minimize any sort of whispering from the shaitan. And when the person, he has his own space and nobody's passing in front of him straight away, that would help him to concentrate in the prayer. Number three, that we will notice later on that the shaitan would be eager to bring people and animals to pass in front of you. And maybe he would possess people to go in front of you, or he himself, the shaitan, would pass in front of you in order to break off your prayer and to make waswasa, so that you will not be there concentrating. So this is the sutra, why we're having it. But we don't need all of that. Prophet of Allah, if he says something, all we have to do is just to follow and adhere. And the hadith regarding the sutra are many. The Shaykh bringing here some of them. He says, وَكَانَ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمْ يَقِفُ قَرِيبًا مِنَ السُّتْرَةِ. And the Prophet of Allah, he used to stand when he prays close to the sutra. Now how close? This is explained in the following sentence. He says, فَكَانَ بَيْنَهُ وَبَيْنَ الْجِدَارِ ثَلَاثَةُ أَذْرُعٍ. Between him and the wall there was to be 3 dhira'. Dhira' is the cubit, which is from the top of the mid or the mid finger up to the elbow. That's the dhira'. So that's 3 adhra' is between the Prophet ﷺ's feet and between the wall or the sutra. So that's about 1.5 meters, because each dhira' is 0.5 meter. How do we know that? Because Ata ibn Abi Rabah, he says dhira' al-Hashimi is being measured. It's to be 48 centimeters, roughly 48 or 47 centimeters. So this is the dhira', okay, and usually it is the case equivalent to the backbone of the saddle onto the camel. It's equivalent to the length or the height of the saddle, the backbone of the saddle. You don't even see camel's got like something to hook onto it. And even you've seen the Indian people, they wrap their foot around it on top of the camel. That's called the backbone of it, and that's equivalent to a dira'. So he says between himself and the sutra 3 adhra', which is about 1.5 meters. Now there is another as well, shows you how close, and between his prostration and between the wall, that means the shield, is the passage of a sheep. So here the practical sunnah is being shown to us. So when the Prophet of Allah used to stand close to the sutra, and not only that, in the other hadith which will be coming now in a minute, that he said to us, فَلْيَدْنُ مِنْهَا, let him get close to it. We need to understand the practical sunnah, how close we should be and how far we should be. So being close is not like some of the scholars, they said, as far as he could really throw the stone. That's far. It is actually close, that is between his feet and between the wall, 3 adhra', 1.5 meters, because the Prophet of Allah's height is this way. But if somebody is like a very high person, like those people who play basketball, I don't think it will be enough for them 1.5 meters between their feet and the wall, because they'll be knocking the wall with their head. So this is for the Prophet ﷺ's height, suitable. So if they can't provide 1.5 meters, we have another issue, which is to make between their prostration and the wall the passage of a sheep. So you're not charging like a bull towards the wall, and you're not far away. So it is not from the sunnah. And the person, when he prays, he gets his head knocking the wall, or knocking the sutra, or charging the sutra. And this is, as I said, from the practical sunnah and from the practical classes that we have learned from our Shaykh, rahimahullah. In one of the classes he was talking about as-sunnatul amaliyah, the practical sunnah. We have to understand how to implement a command from the Prophet ﷺ when he says, let him get close to the sutra. How much close? How close it should be. And the Prophet of Allah ﷺ, according to Abdullah ibn Umar, that he entered the Kaaba. And in that hadith, Abdullah ibn Umar asked Bilal, what did the Prophet ﷺ do when he entered the Kaaba? Because Bilal, he saw it. So Bilal, he said he had made one post on his right. So the Kaaba was made of 6 posts, or 6 pillars, if you call it, pillars. So the Kaaba inside, there are 6 pillars where the Kaaba ceiling goes on top of it. Prophet of Allah, when he prayed, he made 3 pillars behind him. And he prayed in between the pillars in such a way that he made 1 pillar on his left, and 2 on his right. 1 pillar on his left and 2 on his right. And the 3 ones are behind. Do we have that in the book? Okay. Right, write that down, doctor. So the house was built upon 6 pillars. And he said in that hadith, Bilal, I have seen the Prophet of Allah making between him and the wall 3 handspans. 3 cubits. There are 3 cubits. Also, we have the hadith that Doctor had recited. He said, and Prophet of Allah said, don't pray except to a sutra. If it is a command like this, that's a compulsion. And not only that, he said, وَلَا تَدَعْ أَحَدًا يَمُرُّ بَيْنَ يَدَيْكَ. Now let anyone to pass between you and your sutra. So when you take the sutra, the wall or the whatever, for example, the leg of the table, the back of your brother, he says that don't let anyone to pass between you and the sutra. Now here, let anyone, okay, that includes human being and others, but doesn't include the ones, for example, who are do not understand, like the children. For the animals, I don't think you're going to hurt the animal if you prevent it from the sutra. But the children, you have to teach them. But I wouldn't really fight them like in the hadith here, the child, because he says if he refused. Well, the child is not going to refuse because he's stubborn, because he's a child. So the Prophet of Allah, he was prostrating one day. He prolonged the prostration so much, and the companions, one of them, he wanted to see what happened to the Prophet of Allah. He said, I saw something, astonishing. So I pulled my head back. So he lifted up his head from the prostration, and that to show you that his prostration is still valid. He put it back, and then after the Prophet was finished, he didn't ask anything. He's not like these people curious. Straight away, Messenger of Allah, why did you do this? He just waited. He knew the Prophet was going to say something. Other companions asked, Messenger of Allah, we've seen that we have made a long, prolonged prayer that you have done. He knows, that companion, what happened. He saw it. He said, yes, well, my two grandsons had made me as a camel in Tatlaya, rode me. I didn't want to spoil their game. Didn't want them to make, to make them hasten. Let them ride me until they finish and they leave. So if there was a case of passing in front of the Prophet of Allah is an issue, we would have not let them to go and ride him while he was prostrating. So don't let anyone, that's human being, but we find later on even the sheep, Prophet of Allah prevented that from put. So فَإِنْ أَبَى فَلْيُقَاتِلْ, that if he refuses, then let him fight him. Fight him means fight with like push into his chest. And here's another hadith, let him push into his chest twice. Third, which is a push, strong one. If he dies on that push, in Islam, not in this country, in Islam, you have no penalty to be paid. You're not going to be responsible for what you've done, because you have warned twice. Third time, that's it. فَلْيُقَاتِلْ. Now, if we look at this, then this hadith tells us, if it was somebody who was inside, coming between you and Sutra, what are you going to do? You don't know. Prevented him, but he looks at it and he started making laugh and laughter, even though there's something wrong with him. What would you do now? You leave him. Because he's going to refuse. And you're going to harm someone who doesn't understand. So, you leave him because you can't do it. So the best thing is just to forward yourself. Just treat him like a sheep. Prophet of Allah, he went forward and he let the sheep go up behind. So go forward and let him go behind. You don't go forward except if in that situation, like a sheep or a person like this who doesn't understand. فَإِنَّ مَعَهُ قَرِينٌ. And there is another narration, he is himself a shaitan. The shaitan, qareen, every person's got the qareen. But this qareen, which is the shaitan, is sometimes he overcomes you, he's really holding you, he tells you what to do from the haram. Sometimes you are, mashallah, strong, you don't listen to him. So this is the qareen which is telling him, go on, break off his prayer. And the Prophet ﷺ, in the following hadith, he says,
He ﷺ would also say, when one of you prays towards the sutra, he should get close to it so that shaitan cannot break his prayer.
Right. So here, Prophet of Allah, he said, if one of you prays to the sutra, it doesn't mean there's a choice. Oh, if you don't want to pray to the sutra, there's no problem. No, this is just like when the hadith of the Prophet of Allah, if you're about to make the prayer, if you want to make the prayer, then perfect such and such. It doesn't mean that prayer is what? Not compulsory. So here it is, don't understand from this Arabic expression that oh, the sutra is not compulsory, because the Prophet said, if one of you wants to pray to a sutra, no. Means that if the person in a situation where he has a sutra, because Sometimes you're praying behind the Imam, and the Imam is what? He's sutra. So if the Imam is close to the wall, and you are behind the Imam, not directly behind the Imam, but you are on the side, between you and the wall is going to be what? A bit of distance, isn't it? You don't get close here in this case, do you? Because the Imam is the one who's required to get close. So this hadith is applicable to the Imam, not applicable to you as behind the Imam. But it doesn't mean that sutra is not compulsory. See, he let him get close to it. And we knew how much close now. Not charging like a bull, not far away. Between your head and the shield, the sutra, is the passage of a sheep. What is the passage of a sheep? The passage of a sheep, if you're a Bedouin, you will know, almost half a meter. So that's the passage of a sheep. That's the passage of a cow. Or a camel. Okay, the sheep is like that. It will pass through it. Regardless how fat it is. And that's a sheep. Half a meter. So between your head and the prostration and the wall and the sutra, half a meter. I'm not saying now go and bring a meter scale or measurement and start putting in half and make a line that's going to be prostrating. It's not like that. It's not going to be an extreme like this. But you know a passage of a sheep. So whether it's a sheep, a thin or a big, you are alhamdulillah. So don't charge, that's the wrong. So this is my laptop now. If a person prayed with his head like this, it's not right. He prayed his head like that, I would say he made, mashallah, a little passage for a little baby sheep. But if he prayed as far as that brother there, that's not a sheep, that's a car passage here. Yeah, car passage. So that's what the people, they do. They pray in the middle of the masjid, all the way to the wall, for a train, or a plane. Now, so, the other issue with the hadith, لا يقطع الشيطان عليه صلاته. Shaykh al-Qari, regarding this hadith, he explains an explanation. He says, لا يقطع الشيطان, that means shaitan with his whispering, he would cut off his prayer. That means he would bring people, bring animals, and he will make, and also he said, rahimahullah, that is, the person when he gets a sutra and makes a practical sunnah, which is not far away from the sutra, passage of a sheep, then his heart will be more of concentrating in the prayer and will be more harder on the shaitan to penetrate. So that's as well from the benefits of implementing the sunnah. So if those people are getting whispering all the time in the prayer, is to implement the sunnah as much as you can. From the sunnah is when you make your prostration, you make it just like the Prophet of Allah, not far away, not charging like a bull, and then the shaitan will not be able. That's another as well interpretation for it. Also interpretation, which is the real shaitan breaking your prayer. Because we have a hadith. This hadith is interpreted as well, being narrated by another narration, which says, قال, so that the shaitan would not pass in front of you. It's not yaqta' here, cut off. Cut off means could cut off by the waswasa. But when it says passes, it means an actual passage. And he, the shaitan, would pass. And to see the shaitan on his real form is impossible. No one can see the shaitan on his real form. Okay, if somebody said, I saw the shaitan, or saw the ghost, and there's a CCTV camera, and you see, look at that. Oh, that's rubbish. You can see the shaitan or the jinn when he forms himself onto other creation, like an animal or a human being, but not the shaitan on his real form. Because Allah said, إِنَّهُ يَرَاكُمْ هُوَ وَقَبِيلُهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا تَرَوْنَهُ. Surah Al-A'raf, Allah says that they will see you, him and his followers, from an angle that you can't see them. So you can't see them. So they cannot be seen in their real form. But when they form themselves or transform themselves to another animal or to another human being, you could see them. And we will see later on hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where the shaitan came to the Prophet of Allah and he wanted to pass in front of him. And the Prophet of Allah, he being inspired to that the shaitan he wants to, and he had seen him. Some of the scholars, like Al-Qadi Iyad, he says that the prophets, if Allah wills, he could make them to see them in their real form. Allahu A'lam. And Imam al-Nawawi had refuted that argument. And then he said, in the hadith itself, the Prophet of Allah, he said, what he did like this. After the prayer, the Prophet, companion asked, Messenger, what was that? They only know, because maybe it could be from part of the prayer now. Every time they pray, they'll do like this. He said, Prophet said that the shaitan passed in front of me, and I got it from his neck. And then I wanted to tie him up to this pillar, al-Ustuwana, in the masjid, and make the children of the Medina play around. You know, play around, they kick him, smack him, slap him, like a dog. But I remembered the supplication of my brother Sulaiman. What is that supplication? Rabbi habli, Rabbi ighfirli wa habli mulkan la yanbaghi li ahadin min ba'di. When he said, Sulaiman salam to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, O Lord, forgive for me and grant me a dominion. That means something that no one can have it. It will not be for anybody after me. And he had, that is the ruling of the jinn. They used to be slaves for him. Sulaiman commanded to do anything, they will do it. And that is only for Sulaiman alayhi salam. So, Prophet of Allah, he hasn't got the control of that jinn. It's only to Sulaiman alayhi salam. Now, the shaitan, he wanted to pass in front of the Prophet of Allah. That poses a problem here. Because the Prophet of Allah, he was taking a sutra. So, how can we reconcile now that the shaitan wanted to pass in front of him? And yet the Prophet of Allah said, if one of you prays to sutra, then get close to it, otherwise the shaitan will break off his prayer on it. Do you understand? So, if we explain that breaking off the shaitan is the waswasa, then we don't have to reconcile. But if you explain the shaitan breaking off is also passing in front of you, that's when we're going to say that how come that the shaitan had passed in front of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We will say that there's another hadith that the Prophet of Allah saw the shaitan bringing a bowl of flame of fire, and he wanted to throw it in the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam's face while he's praying. And it could be that the shaitan, he will not be able to cross from one side to another, but actually just to go to in front of the Prophet of Allah. Because passing, it means go from one side to another. So to reconcile between the two, you could say that the shaitan, when you take a sutra, physically himself will not be able to penetrate, will not pass, but he will be able to stop close to you and whisper to you and tell you and remind you and dunya and all of that. He'll be able to do that. The more closer to the sunnah you are, the more protected against sin. And we can as well interpret that the shaitan, he as well is able to bring all sorts of things to distract you from the prayer. As for the Prophet ﷺ, he had the capability of holding the shaitan. We don't have that. To hold the jinn in his real form, we can't do that. But we can ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us and help us, for bodily us and then we are weak. And the one who's stronger, the one who puts his hand in the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A shaitan is a reality and he comes from the jinn. And we don't say that the Iblis is the origin of shaitan, just like Adam, the origin of a human being. And the jinn are reality, despite of the Qadianis. I think you have a footnote for the Qadianis, which will come to in a minute, inshallah. Go ahead.
Sometimes he sallallahu alaihi wasallam would seek to pray at the pillar which was in his mosque.
Right. Pillar in his mosque, this is called the pillar of Muhajirun. And it's in the middle of the Rawdah. And Prophet ﷺ used to pray not just because of that specific pillar, but just to make sure that there is a sutra. And if the person is praying in a jama'ah where he's behind the imam, it is disliked to be praying between two pillars, Because if you do so, then you are exposing the road to be broken. So you have to be as far away from the pillars, either behind it or in front of it, not in between. Unless, number one, that the masjid is full in Jumu'ah, don't have space. Number two, that when you're praying between the two pillars, that you know for a fact there will be nobody coming on both sides of the pillar. So if the Imam and you 10 people you are, and you know that you are coming to a place, it's only you 10 people. It's not a masjid like coming, every person can come. And the Imam has prayed and you are between two pillars, and you know that the number is not going to increase, there's no problem to pray between the pillars. But when the prayer between the pillars comes slight, and it's not right, when some people goes onto the other side of those pillars, then makes this road to be a broken road, and the road should be intact. And that is where the Prophet had commanded us not to break off the road. And those ustuwana, the scholars of Imam Malik rahimahullah used to beat up the people who prays in between them, not to pray between them. And this is to show you that the importance of the link between the people, that there should be no pillars. But now these days, without pillars, people put pillars. They put an acre of a land between him and his neighbor. So there's an imaginary pillar, if you understand. Between each individual. You get closer to him, he goes a bit far. Get closer to him, and you come to the row, you could put 2-3 people in the row. That's how far they are from their shoulders. And if you get closer, he just like, I don't know, is it because you stink that he can go 45? Or what is it? What's wrong? You know, the magnetic, when they have the two, similar sides, put them together, they go like that. It's exactly the same thing. Get closer, it goes far. I don't know who taught them the sunnah. This is not the sunnah of the Prophet of Allah. We are like bunyan, well-built fortresses. Al-qadam bil-qadam wal-mankib. That's how you feel the prayer. When you pray where there is a gap, you are not comfortable, and I'll tell you why. Definitely not going to be comfortable, because shaitan is taking his what? His space, his freedom. He's passing between you and coming between you. He's having freedom. He likes his masajid, or like these people who pray like this, where there is a gap, and the shaitan can squeeze himself in between. Prophet said, "Kal hadath." There's small little goats in between you, so don't make the gap in between you and your neighbor. So the Prophet ﷺ, he used to pray towards that istuwana, which is what? The istuwana, that is the istuwanat al-muhajirun, as we have said. Right, go ahead.
When he ﷺ prayed in an open space where there was nothing to use as sutra, he would plant a spear in the ground in front of him and pray towards it with the people behind him. Sometimes he ﷺ would set his mount sideways and pray towards it. But this is not the same as prayer in the resting place of camels.
He would side what? His what?
Sideways, the riding.
Riding the saddle?
Yeah.
Yakul.
Sometimes he would set his mount sideways and pray towards it. But this is not the same as prayer in the resting place of camels, which he forbade. And sometimes he would take his saddle, set it lengthways, and pray towards its end. The first one was animal.
Let me just explain. First of all, you read a lot, but I want you to always, there's a footnote, if you missed it, which is the hadith of the Ustuwana. So there's a hadith, there's a footnote, don't miss it, Doctor. Do you understand? The number links to the Ustuwana, so you missed it now. So before we go to that, what you have read, read it again now. Okay. So the Ustuwana, there is now a footnote there, which talks about what Imam Ahmad had said to Ibn Hani. Go ahead.
The sutra is a must for the Imam or a person praying alone, even in a large mosque. Ibn Hani said in his Masail from Imam Ahmad, volume 1, page 66, Abu Abdullah, that is Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah, saw me one day when I was praying without a sutra in front of me, and I was in a large congregational mosque. So he said to me, take something as sutra. So I took a man as a sutra. This contains an indication that Imam Ahmad rahimahullah...
Who's saying this? Shk.Abu. Shk.Abu is saying this now. Now.
This contains an indication that Imam Ahmad rahimahullah did not differentiate between big or small mosques in taking a sutra, and that is surely correct, but this is something neglected by most people, including imams of the mosques. In every land that I have visited, including Arabia, which I was able to tour in Rajab of this year, 1410, so the ulama should tell the people and advise them of this, explaining its ruling, and that it is also required in the two sacred mosques.
This is a dilemma. Imam Ahmad, he saw it in hand, praying, and he has no sutra, shield, and he was praying in a big masjid. He said, take a sutra. So I took a man of the sutra. So Shk.Abu is using Imam Ahmad because the Saudi Arabians, most of them, they follow the Hanbali madhab. That's why he's quoting that. But there are other scholars who are more clear regarding this issue. And he's saying that the scholars in the Saudi Arabians, they should really bring the attention to the people, and what they haven't actually. On the contrary, we find books which are made in the haram to say that there is no sutra for the haram. And we find as well people who are targeting those who take sutra in the haram to fight them. So if he's taking sutra and you're trying to prevent that person, he will just push your hand hard. It's not, instead of you trying to push him hard not to come, he's pushing you hard because he wants to come, and he's got a space behind you or behind the sutra, but he wants to what? Target you. Who has got this before happen to him? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. How many people had visited the haram? Put your finger up, please. Okay. How many people, what I just said, had happened to them? Put your finger up. I would say, even uncle and uncle, as about more than 25% from the gathering. 25% of those who went there. Maybe the ones I'm going to ask, if I ask a limit the question now, they will know. Who knows about, from those people who raised up his finger, that he went to haram, who among those, they know about the sunnah, they should take sutra in the haram? Put your finger up. Now the hands are little, less than before. The southern hands, they didn't know about this sutra. Now from those, now we got to 50%. 50% who taken the sutra, they've been targeted by some people. And you can see that they come to you and they penetrate with you in your sutra, and you try to do for them, they just put your hand away. You say, there's no sutra in the haram. As I said, Shk.Abu had said to the scholars, and as I said to the contrary, I'm saying with my grief in my heart, that there are books there to say that there is no sutra in the haram. I'm asking, for a simple layman like ourselves, let's call it, we're not student knowledge, those ahadith, where the Prophet of Allah, he said, if one of you to pray, then let him pray to sutra. Were these ahadith made in Luton? Were they made in High Wycombe? Were they made in France? They made in the Arabian Peninsula. Which masjid were they made in? Which masjid were made in? This haram. What is it made? Prophet of Allah, most of his time was in the Medina, in the masjid of the Prophet of Allah. They were not made in a particular masjid, for example, like Masjid Quba. It was made in the masjid of the Prophet of Allah, which is a haram. And who distinguishes between haram Medina and haram Mecca? We said to him, where is the proof? Where is the proof? And the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ regarding leaving the three cubits between himself and the wall was inside the Kaaba. Never mind inside the Haram. Inside the Kaaba itself. Okay. Inside the Kaaba itself. So I would say, for those who pray in the Haram, you're right to take a sutra, but I would advise you that when you pray, which is your own prayer, if you're praying behind the imam, then there's no need for sutra, but talking about you praying on your own. Because the sutra is required for you if you pray as an imam or on your own. It's not required for you when you pray behind the imam. The imam is a sutra. Then I would urge you, number one, to go to a place, okay, where is minimizing the situation of causing a hassle for the people. So don't go to the middle of the sahan, the plate, and just take sutra. The people are going to break the sutra. Go to a place where there's a corner, or behind you, like beside you, a pillar, just like that. Number two, it would be better if you pray together with your brothers. So you have got other brothers who pray to the sutra. They will be protection for you. So if somebody pull your hand and what are you doing? The other person will talk to him. Okay. Number three, the most powerful weapon that you could carry is not a knife. No. Knowledge. If you have knowledge, believe me, that person will not approach you. Bring me a proof. Done. I've got my proof. Prophet said, "La tusalli ila sutra." Don't pray except for sutra. And the Prophet, where was he? Was he in China when you read this hadith? La tusalli ila sutra. Where is he? The Haram. You tell me why are you taking the sutra? Tell me. Any hadith he brings for you, when I see it now, is not authentic. It's not authentic. The authentic hadith is a hadith, and that's why Shk.Abu rahimahullah, he's saying the sutra is wajib, rahimahullah. Haram, haram, wajib. It is to be compulsory. But I would say the ones who sticks out, that is from the shuyukh that talked about this issue, Shk.Abu, nobody else. He brought this issue. It's a revival of the sunnah. Before the Shaykh rahimahullah, people, they don't know anything about the sutra. When this book came out, now the people start eagerly to pray behind the sutra. The companions, they used to take the camels of their sutra, like Abdullah ibn Umar. Wherever the camel goes, he goes behind him. He moves. And the sutra. And one day the man, one of the companions, is praying behind his horse. Okay? And the horse moved. And he moved behind, and one of these people from the Khawarij said, look at this man, he's a bad man. Okay? He's not even settled in his prayer. So he said, when he heard this, "Oh, I'm not a fool like you, making my money to run away. I'm going to stay like this. This is my money. It's my transport. So if your camel goes or your horse goes, your heart goes with it." So somebody asked me, if I'm praying and somebody stole my wallet, what should I do? Run behind me, brother. When are you going to concentrate on your prayer? He's already took your heart with it. Already took your heart with it. And you're going to say, well, how much money have I got in that wallet and how much? Just go and get your wallet. And break off your prayer. What time is Isha? 10? Very close. We'll finish after the Isha, okay, inshallah? Right. So, in the haram, we pray, take the sutra. But as I said to you, take the knowledge as a weapon. And I'll tell you what happened to me. I was praying in the haram, and there was people, while I was praying, I tried to break off my prayer, and I put my hand, and he just pushed my hand, and I looked to see who it is. Then I knew. And I continued my prayer, and then I followed the guy. The guy, I know him, because he came in the same coach I came. He comes from the same country I came. And he came just deliberately, like searching for me, to prove his point. But he's powerful in physical. I am powerful in knowledge. I defeated him. Because can't fight me in the haram, can't punch me. Okay? But I have punched him knowledge-wise. So, if you're not convinced, brother, don't bother other people. If you're convinced whatever you want, lakum dinukum waliya din. That's it. Now, I think I shared with you my story regarding the brother who made me actually what I am at the moment. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward him for what he did, but maybe it's in a different way. Maybe it's in a way, maybe I will not do it myself, but it was actually resulted in me searching for the books. as when I went to the university they call the Salafi University in Pakistan. And I was in the khutbah, and the khatib was an Arab. I don't know the sheikh. After he finished the khutbah, in Pakistan it's really hot during the summer, very hot. So dehydrating. And in the university there was like a cooler, but it's a big one, it's an old one, it's not like a small one, big massive one. It's about 3 or 4 caps. And the cups, they've not got plastic cups, they've got this metal, and this metal's got a chain, so you don't steal it. So I put the water there and I drank standing up. I drank like this and I didn't sew actually, I felt a slap on my back. Wallahi, it's really hot. Now naturally I was like this. Naturally, I didn't. And then he was really big. I changed my mind. I said, why, brother? Fear Allah, why you did this? He said, sit down and you drink. I said, okay. This is terrorization of the Sunnah. But I said to him, now I'm going to bring my knowledge. He said, what is your proof? He said, sit down and I'll tell you what's my proof. But anyway, I went home and I started eating the books. Now I'm reading everything that would give me ammunition to say that it is okay to drink what? Standing up. So I'm not really doing it for the sake of Allah. I'm doing it for the sake of wrestling. I want to win over that guy. So I'm not doing it for the sake of Allah. And I started reading. And the first book I read regarding this issue, that is Imam Shawkani's book, Al-Awtar. And I went there and it is really what I want. He's talking about, and he's fighting himself, the ones who say that you don't have to sit down to drink standing up. That's what I want. And I started reading and memorizing. I remember I was invited in an invitation that same day in the afternoon with one of the shuyukh there, and I went there to the sheikhs and I just recently got, read that book, so it's in my mind, that issue. And here he was. In the invitation, that guy who hit me is in the invitation himself. Now, he's big, but I've got knowledge. I think I'm bigger than him. So, in front of everybody, I said to him, why did you hit me when I was drinking, standing up? And by the way, it's I think still 02. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. Continuing my story, I said, I met the brother who had smacked me on my back, on my neck, into that invitation, and straight away I fired at him and saying, why did you hit me? For verily drinking, standing up is allowed. And I started giving my version, quoting him the hadith, which I know that from Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, also the Prophet ﷺ drank Zamzam when he was there standing up and all of that. Then he brought a book, I remember the color of it, it's red. And in that book, he started reading for me and he said, Hadith of Anas radiallahu anhu, that the Prophet ﷺ zajara an ash-shurbi qa'ima. He had prohibited from drinking standing up. And then he brought me as well another hadith from Sahih Imam Muslim. And the continuation of that hadith in Sahih Muslim, he said, I'm going to help you as well. That continuation is unauthentic. That is, which it says, he who forgets, let him vomit. I didn't know which book he was reading from. And I was listening. And then after he left, and I think he defeated me, I went to the book itself, and it was the book of Shaykh Nasruddin al-Albani rahimahullah, Silsila al-Da'ifa, in which he was quoting from it. And from there, that was my, you could say, start into the da'wah on the manhaj of the Salafi manhaj. And that was back into the early Christian era, 1990. It's about end of 1890, 89. That's when I started reading the Shaykh al-Albani's book, rahimahullah. Going back to what we have been saying, which is the sutra in the haram. And as I said, if the person adheres to the sunnah, opens his heart for the sunnah, he would accept, regardless of what is the command, because if his target is to satisfy and please Allah Azza wa Jal, straight away he would listen and adhere. Not like some of the people, when you tell them time and time again, verily this is the sunnah, they are finding reluctance in their hearts, and they call themselves, they are loving of the Prophet, or they love the Prophet of Allah, but they don't show it. Because the person, if he loves the Prophet ﷺ, he would straight away, he would adhere to the sunnah of the Messenger of Allah. And every time I set an example regarding following the sunnah, there's nothing better than what has been narrated in Sahih Imam Muslim on the authority of Nu'man ibn Salim, whom he had narrated from Amr ibn Aus, whom he had narrated from Basat ibn Abi Sufyan, who narrated from Habiba radiallahu anha, that the Prophet ﷺ, he said, he who had prayed 12 rak'ah in the day, Allah will build him a house in paradise. Habiba, the wife of the Prophet of Allah, she said, I never left those 12 rak'ah since I heard them from the Prophet of Allah. And then the person who narrated from her, that is Basat ibn Abi Sufyan, he said, I've never left those 12 rak'ah since I heard them from Habiba. And then the one who narrated from him, which is Amr ibn Aus, he said, I never left those 12 rak'ah since I heard them from Ambasa. And then finally, Nu'man ibn Salim, he said, I never left those 12 rak'ah since I heard them from Amr ibn Aus. So once you hear from the Prophet ﷺ, you should say, Sami'na wa ata'na, we hear and obey. Coming back to the sutra of the Prophet ﷺ, and Messenger of Allah says, whenever he goes to a space, that's what the brother recited, or to a desert, there is nothing there to be having the sutra, then he will bring something and he will stick it, which is like a spear or a stick, and he would pray to it. We have a number of hadith regarding this issue, where the Prophet of Allah, whenever he goes to the Eid, and he prays the Eid outside, that's the sunnah, to pray in the open space, Eid al-Fitr or Eid al-Adha, he will bring a staff and he will stick it to the ground, and he will use that as a sutra. So we understand now the thickness of the sutra is not an issue. So if you had a little sort of rod, a very thin rod, it doesn't matter. What matters is the height and how far. It doesn't matter how thick it is. So it doesn't matter the thickness of it, but it does matter how high it is, because the minimum we said is a cubit, half a meter. And how far we should be with our prostration. When we prostrate between us and the shield and the sutra, not more than the passage of a sheep, which we said is almost half a meter. And the Prophet ﷺ, never been narrated from him that he would make a line. That hadith, even though Imam Ahmad had taken it, but the hadith is unauthentic. So putting a line is not authentic. The other hadith which is not authentic, that the Prophet of Allah, maybe he took his qalansuwa, which is this, and he made it as a sutra. That's not sahih, because this qalansuwa is not high enough anyway. Number two, Prophet of Allah never been seen praying with no hat on. Third hadith which is unauthentic, which is in Sunan Abi Dawud, that is the Prophet of Allah, he put the sutra on his right, not in front of him. That is also unauthentic. So when we get rid of these unauthentic, we're left with the ones that the Prophet of Allah would pray to the sutra in front of him, and he would not use the line, and he would not use his hat as a qalansuwa, unless your hat is like these cooks, you know, the ones who cook, chef. The higher there it is, yeah. That's about 2 meters height. MashaAllah. Okay, that's not, maybe we'll use a sutra, but not the qalansuwa. Now, the Prophet of Allah, he would use as well his rahila, that is the saddle. Saddles have got the backbone. The backbone, as I said, always almost as well half a meter, and that's enough. Now, he says here that he used to put his camel, and when you pray to the camel, you pray to the leg of the camel. You don't pray to the middle of the camel. When you pray to the table, you don't pray to the middle of the table. You pray to the what? To the leg of the table. Pray to the chair, you don't pray to the middle of the chair, pray to one of the legs of the chair. When you pray to a goal, you know, in the playground, you don't pray in the middle of the goal. You pray to the what? The poles which are on the side. Okay? So don't say that, oh, these are connected. No, the sutra does not carry on like that. It has to be what? In front of you, where it comes out from the ground. Is that okay? Okay, sure. And he says not to pray in the camel stables. Praying in the camel stables, the Prophet of Allah prohibited us, because he said this is the place for shaitan. Not the camels of shaitan. Those places the shaitan likes to be there. So we pray to the sutra even if you are on your own, even with a locked room. You guarantee there's nobody there. We said the shaitan, remember? We can't see him. Don't pray in the camel stables, but pray in what? In the sheep. You need to put something. MashaAllah, it looks a lot there. What were you praying? And that is the way Ibn Umar used to, as I said, to take the camel as a shield for him, used to pray to it. Now the hadith which the Prophet ﷺ, he said, and that if one of you is to put, read that hadith, doctor, after he finished with you,
he sallallahu alaihi wasallam would say, when one of you places in front of him something such as the stick on the end of his saddle, he should pray and not mind anyone.
The backbone. It's called the backbone. The stick is not the backbone of the saddle, yeah? And they should not.
He should not pray. He should pray and not mind anyone who passes beyond it.
Okay, beyond it, we understand that. What about between you and your? So I'm making now the sutra. This is the sutra of mine, which is the microphone. This is a bit. Okay, that's the height of my sutra. That's enough. That's my sutra. So if I pray now and put my head here, it says that if you pray to the sutra, you don't mind if anybody passes beyond the sutra. That's no problem. But what about if you pray behind here? So the one who you don't mind, that means you let him pass. But the one here, you prevent him. Say that he'd not stop. He's one of these guys who said, there's no sutra in the haram, and he passed. What happens? Nothing happens. And that's what the Shaykh al-Albani's fiqh regarding this issue. He says that, in the hadith we're going to come in a minute, if any one of you to pray to this backbone of a saddle, then nothing will break his prayer except the following. Nothing breaks his prayer. That means if you had this, nothing will break prayer. The hadith says, يَقْطَعُ الصَّلَاةِ, the prayer will be cut off. إِذَا لَمْ يَكُنْ بَيْنَ يَدَيْ أَحَدِكُمْ مِثْلُ مُؤْخِرَةِ الرَّحِمِ. If you haven't got between you and your qibla the saddle, which is the backbone of the saddle, the following three. So if you had this, even though following three will not break off your prayer, even if they pass between you and your sutra. So even if the woman, or the black dog, or the donkey passes between, you got to come to the hadith, between you and your sutra, it will not affect you. And if you look at the hadith, Shaykh al-Albani has a strong point here. So if you have prevented the person, or prevented the animal, prevented the woman, not to, and you, by the way, you push, and that you don't put your foot to make the person hold up on his face. Okay, you push him, you prevent him like this, and you don't, harm him by putting his foot so you could go on his face. So when you prevent, and you did not succeed, your prayer, nothing happens to it. So that is where the fiqh of the Shaykh rahmatullah alayhi, that is, if you take in the sutra, then you are safe from the breaking off. Who is the one jeopardizing his prayer? Is the one who does not have a sutra. What happens now? If any one of these three passes between him and his prostration spot, then if it is a dog, black dog, or a donkey, or an adult woman, then his prayer will be jeopardized. He has to start the prayer again. If any person apart from those three, then half of his prayer is gone. Half of his prayer is gone in terms of reward. You're already striving in one half, so that half is gone. Then get zero in your prayer. Half of yours is gone. So remember, Prophet said, according to Ibn Mas'ud, that any person he managed to pass between you and your prostration spot, then half of your prayer is gone. And for the person who wants to pass between your sutra, it would be better for him to stay 40. 40 is what has been indicated. 40 could be 40 years, rather than to break off the prayer and push your hand and say there's no sutra in the haram. Now, further.
Once he sallallahu alaihi wasallam prayed towards the tree,
No.
and sometimes he would pray towards the bed on which Aisha radiallahu anha was lying under her sheet.
Right, so praying to the bed, that means to the leg of the bed. Praying to the bed, praying to the leg of the bed. Now, go ahead.
He sallallahu alaihi wasallam would not let anyone pass between him and his sutra. Hence, once he was praying, when a sheep came running in front of him, so he raised it until he pressed his belly against the wall and it passed behind him.
Now,
Also once, while praying an obligatory prayer, he sallallahu alaihi wasallam clenched his fist during it. So when he had finished, the people said, "O Messenger of Allah, did something happen during the prayer?" He sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "No, except that the devil wanted to pass in front of me. So I strangled him until I could feel the coldness of his tongue on my hand. By Allah, had my brother Sulaiman not beaten me to it, I would have tied him, the devil, to one of the pillars of the mosque, so that the children of Medina could walk around him. So whoever can prevent something intervening between him and the Qibla, he must do so."
right, can you just read the footnote?
Referring to the following prayer of the Prophet Sulaiman alayhi salam, which was answered by Allah as described in Quran. Translation of the meaning of the verse 35 to 38. "My Lord, forgive me and grant me sovereignty not allowed to anyone after me, for you are indeed the granter of bounties." So we subjected to his power the wind, gently flowing to his order, wherever he wished, and the devils, every kind of builder and diver, and also others bound together in fetters.
Go ahead.
Also others bound together in fetters. That's the
Qadian, you don't finish Qadian? Come on,
Yes.
I'm just saying, go.
Ahmed, Daraqutni and Tabari with a Sahih Isnad and similar in meaning to this hadith found in Bukhari and Muslim and others on the authority of several companions. It is one of the many hadith which the Qadiani group disbelieve.
Which is the hadith of the Prophet of Allah had held the jinn, the shaitan, with his hand. Now,
for they do not believe in the world of the jinn, which is mentioned in the Quran and the Sunnah. Their method of discarding the text is well known. If it is from the Quran, they change its meaning. That is, saying of the exalted, say, "It has been revealed to me," and the group of jinns listened, which is in verse 1 Surah Al-Jinn. They say that is a group of humans.
that's for example Surah Al-Nas, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ مَلِكِ النَّاسِ إِلَهِ النَّاسِ مِنْ شَرِّ الْوَسْوَاسِ الْخَنَّاسِ الَّذِي يُوَسْوِسُ فِي صُدُورِ مِنَ الْجِنَّةِ. Min al-jinnah, they say jinnah is another type of people. So nas people, but this is a special type of people. Now, so they came out.
Making up the word jinn synonymous with human. Hence they play with the language and the interpretation they do so. Otherwise they find it easy to declare it to be false, even if all the Imam of Hadith and the whole Ummah behind them are agreed on its authenticity. No, it's being mutawatir. May Allah guide them.
Right, okay. Look at the Shaykh there. See, may Allah guide them. But we say that the Qadianis, we can't say all of them kuffar. We say what? He who believes in the Qadiani Aqidah is a kafir. Because they are saying, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. So any person from them, he knows what is the Qadiani Aqidah and he believes in it, he's a kafir. But not every Qadiani believes in the Qadiani belief. Because you can't make takfir upon an ummah who says, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadun. Because not every person is knowledgeable like you, he knows. The same thing with the Rafidah. The same thing with the Ibadiyya. The same thing with the Nusayriyya. The same thing with all of those. They say, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. We can't say all Ismail is kafir. No, we could say that he who believes in Ismail Aqidah is a kafir. He who believes in Qadiani is a kafir. He who believes in the Rafida Aqidah is a kafir. This way that you could be careful not to make takfir, like the Shaykh al-Albani says, in wholesale. You know wholesale? We don't have wholesale takfir. We have individual takfir. We don't sell takfir like this wholesale. We give it individually. We sell it individually. Now,
he sallallahu alaihi wasallam also used to say, when one of you prays towards something which is a sutra between him and the people, and someone intends to cross in front of him, then he should push him in the throat and repel as much as he can.
Not in the throat, in the chest. Throat. That's a fatal.
As much as he can. And in one narration, he should stop him twice. But if he refuses to not pass, then he should fight him, for verily he is a devil.
Right. You have to be careful. So a woman can't push in the chest. It's not allowed. Right? For the woman, it's not allowed. So the woman, usually is the case, we just put your hand, they'll be scared. They will not going to say to you, there's no sutra in the haram. Usually they will, oh, did you see that? That's a funny one. Because the brother is short as well. And the woman, she came, she's 6'4", she saw this brother, get up. And she was covered completely? Her face completely covered? She's not covered completely. Allah understand. They act like men now. Right. The woman, she's allowed to push in her chest. But you are not allowed to push in her chest. But you're allowed to prevent it. You could really go forward and make it a person behind. Remember, if you have a sutra, she will not break off your prayer. That is alhamdulillah, that's something that you will learn. But you could really go forward and make a point. But if you pass, don't worry about it. Now let's go to the other hadith, which says,
he sallallahu alaihi wasallam also used to say, if the person who passes in front of someone praying knew the sin of him, it would be better for him to wait 40 than to pass in front.
It doesn't know, we don't know how much 40. No.
Another said, I do not remember exactly whether he said 40 days, months or years.
No.
What breaks the prayer? He sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to say, a man's prayer is cut off when there is nothing such as the end of a saddle in front of him by a menstruating woman, a donkey.
Not a menstruating woman, an adult woman. That's a literal translation, not an understanding translation. That means if she's not menstruating, there's no problem. No, it means an adult, that she menstruates. Not a menstruating woman, that means a woman she's menstruating now. But the woman that she menstruates is a sign of what? Adulthood. So if she's a child, no problem. Now,
so an adult woman, a donkey or a black dog. Abu Dharr radiallahu anhu said, I said, Messenger of Allah, why the black dog rather than the red one? He sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the black dog is a shaitan.
Right, this is where some of those who wants to play around with this hadith, they use another hadith which is authentic, that is in Sahih Bukhari and Muslim, which is on authority of Aisha radiallahu anha, when she said, it's been mentioned to her that Abu Hurairah is saying that the prayer will break off if one of the three passes in front of you, that is the woman who is an adult, the dog, which is the black one, and the donkey. So she said, verily you have made us similar to the dogs and the donkeys. They use that in this hadith sahih. By Allah, she said, I used to see the Prophet of Allah praying, and I am on the bed between him and the Qibla. And sometimes I would, just get closer to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I want to go and leave. So I would pass, I pass beside his leg. So she said I would pass through the leg of the bed, basically, and I will go because I don't want him to see me in my face. Now this hadith, as I said, is authentic, and it might pose a problem for the somebody person said, well, then Aisha, she was in front of the Prophet of Allah. Let me now narrate the hadith in number of narrations you can understand it. One hadith as well says that the Aisha, she said that we don't have the masabih, the lights, the lanterns in that house. And I used to put my foot between the Prophet of Allah and the Qibla when he prays, and every time he prostrates, he gives me a nudge, and I will pull my feet. We understand from this hadith, number one, how small is the room of the Prophet of Allah. Number two, that the Prophet of Allah hasn't got light in his body, because she said there's no dark in him. Because there's people that think it's nur. If it's nur, well, why is it dark? Because you know, they say it's nur, light, and they think it's bulbs there and voltage. And so the Prophet of Allah, in the case, why did she have to, you know, she said that there was no light. Well, the Prophet of Allah is next to her, there's a lamp. But these are the people what they think. So he uses against him. He's not, has he got a light? He had light of guidance, yes, but not the light that you think. And number three, that the Prophet ﷺ, he used to do something in the prayer which is for the prayer. So say, see something that you could give him a nudge. Number four, touching a woman will not invalidate wudu. Number five, we learn from this hadith as well that passing is different from standing in front. That's the reconciliation here. That Aisha did not pass. So if a woman came to you in the front and she reversed back, she did not go to the other side, she did not cross. You understand that? So if a woman, she stood in front of you and she went back, she did not cross to the other side, it's like with the person, when you stop him, went to the front, he goes reverse, he did not cross in front of you. And that's how we reconcile between this and the hadith. But still here, why Aisha, she said what she said. How does Aisha's understanding? She didn't hear the Prophet of Allah saying the hadith, which is this one. So she denied this hadith because she saw that the Prophet of Allah was praying while she was in front of him, between him and the Qibla. So how come you say that the women, she would break the prayer? So she had a number of times rejected to accept some concept which she thinks not a hadith adopted by the companion. Sometimes she's right, sometimes she's wrong. Here she's wrong. Only Allah know Allah, because she didn't know. Another narration, she was right, like the narration of Abu Hurairah, the same companion, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, when he said that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that pessimism, Shk.Abu, you know, pessimism, optimism, pessimism, is to be in three: the women, and the houses, and the right. She said, may Allah have mercy upon Abu Hurairah. He had entered and he missed the first part of the hadith. The hadith says that the Jahiliyyah used to say that pessimism, so he had from the word pessimism. He didn't hear the word what? The Jahiliyyah used to believe. So she was right in that interpretation because she heard it fully. But in this one, she did not know that the Prophet of Allah said what he said. Another one, which is, radiallahu anha, she was wrong. What this says, she said, if anyone said to you that the Prophet of Allah had urinated standing up, then he's a liar. We know that Abu Hurairah had narrated for us, urinated standing up. Another companion is standing up. بَالَ فِي سُبَاطَةِ قَوْمٍ. He made a urination in the garbage of some tribe, and he was doing it standing up. But she's wrong, but she's truthful. Because she's talking about the Prophet of Allah urinating where? In her house, where she could see him. But not outside. So she was wrong, but she was right regarding the seeing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Masruq, the one used to ask her all the time, he asked about, did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, did the Prophet of Allah see Allah azza wa jal? She said, qaffa sha'ri. My hair is standing on end. She said, don't be upset with me, mother of believers, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says in Surah Al-Najm, and he says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that he had that he had seen him on another occasion. So when this interpretation of this ayah to be said like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had came down to the Prophet and the Prophet of Allah had seen him, she said, no, I am the first one to ask the Prophet of Allah. ثُمَّ رَآهُ نَزْلَةً أُخْرَى. That is Jibreel alayhi salam. قال الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم نور النار. I did not see him because he was making the Isra and then the Mi'raj, and the Prophet was asked, did you see your Lord? He said, light. It's not Allah light, but there's a barrier, shield between him and the Prophet of Allah, which is what? The light, sitar, hijabuhu nur. I couldn't see him. So the Prophet of Allah did not see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the eyes that belong to his head. He's seen him in what? In his heart, in his dream, in his vision. But you did not see him in reality. You're not going to see your Lord until you, until you what? Until you die. Do you understand that? You're not going to see your Lord until you what? You can't see your Lord until you die. Remember that. And that's what Aisha, she understood as well when the Prophet of Allah said, he who likes to meet Allah, Allah likes to meet him. And he who hates to meet Allah, Allah hates to meet him. She said, Aisha, Messenger of Allah, we hate death. Look how clever she is. Because she said what she said, he who likes to meet Allah, Allah, how can we see Allah? How can we meet Allah? We have to die first. So she said, oh Lord, oh Messenger of Allah, we hate death. That means we hate to meet Allah. Do you understand that? That means, do we hate me? No, no. Natural to hate death. Everybody hates death. It's natural. And even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hates to harm you because you hate death. In the hadith, He hates to pass on to you death, but this is inevitable. He made it as a decree. Because you hate death, He doesn't like to pass death upon you. But when Prophet will explain it to Aisha, she said, Ya Aisha, it is not like this. When you're about to die, this is the moment. You'll be given, if you're a good person, the glad tidings of what is ahead of you. Then there is nothing better and more lovable to you than what is ahead of you. So you like to meet Allah. And Allah likes to meet you. And for the corrupted person, just before he dies, you'll be given the tidings of the anger, the wrath of Allah, everything. And that is why there's nothing more hatred to him than what is ahead of him. He hates to meet Allah in that moment, and Allah hates to meet him. That's the interpretation. So, Aisha radiallahu anha wa ardaha, as I said, a number of times she was correct, and a number of times she was not right. In this case, she's not right. We're still with the hadith. If one of those three things had passed between you and your prostration place, if you did not take a sutra, which is the height of a backbone of the saddle, which is a half a meter, a cubit, then those three, which is the black dog, that's the shaitan. Black means pure black. Pure black. Now, the dogs, we said that the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Uqtul al-aswad," kill the one who's black. Black, which is really black. There is nothing white in it, even a single grey hair. Now, did the Prophet of Allah abrogate that, or did he not abrogate that? Do you understand me? There's a difference among the scholars. When he said, لَوْلَا أَنَّ الْكِلَابَ أُمَّةً مِنَ الْأُمَمِ لَأَمَرْتُ بِقَتْلِهَا. Had it been that the dogs is a nation, belongs to the nations of creation, I would have commanded to kill them. Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah, he includes even the black dog in that. Do you understand what I said? That means even the black dog had been abrogated to be killed. That's what he believes. Did you understand what I said? You didn't understand what I said? Okay. The black dog, the Prophet of Allah, he said, to kill it. Now, the Prophet of Allah, he said in the hadith, which the Shaykh makes it a later on hadith, had it been that the dogs are the nations from the nations, not the nations of the monkeys, the nations of the dogs, the nations of the rats, the nations of the whatever, it's a nation, I would have commanded to kill it. It will abrogate the killing of the black dog. I can't be more clear than this. So that black dog is not to be killed. Understand that? According to our Shaykh, he thinks, the Shaykh, he believes that this hadith abrogates the hadith of killing the black dog. Other scholars, they say no. The black dog is still to be killed. In this country though. See, not in this country. To be killed, and the other dogs is not to be killed unless they are aqur, harmful, bite you. Okay. And you know that naturally, the dog when he barks on the kids is scared. Naturally. The dog which hasn't been, his nature hasn't been really ruined. The nature has been ruined. He will like rats, and he will like mice, and he will like... It's been ruined. But naturally, the dog, when the dog barks on a child, you see the child will terrify. And it scares him. Okay? And we have heard about so many people being bitten by the dog. And he got this disease called rabies. Rabies, yeah. And you need to... In our country, they give you 21 injections. I don't know if it's called the same thing. It's a lot of injections, just in case. I will stop here, inshallah, and we will have your questions. And sorry to keep you a bit late tonight. So that just for 5 minutes, and then we'll leave you, inshallah. Father. That the Prophet of Allah perform wudu to every salah is impossible. For verily the Prophet of Allah, regarding the Fajr prayer, he does not perform wudu. Do you know that? He says that my eye sleeps but my heart does not sleep. So he does not perform wudu for the salah. They used to, Bilal wake him up and he used to pray without wudu. So he did not perform wudu for every salah. But actually, on the contrary, he made wudu for one day, which is the opening of the repossession in Mecca, all the prayers with one wudu. Now, if a person being taken as a sutra without him knowing, then the person should stay as much as he can, as long as he hasn't got anything persisting need, until that brother finishes his sutra, or he could pull something and put him instead of him, like a chair, and he moves. But on the person who's taking him to sutra, that person should be politely, just like the companions used to ask others, can you give me your back so I can take you as a sutra? Rather than just to be, being talking to someone and then I want to move and then somebody taking me to sutra without my permission. That would cause me to sit down for him until he finishes, if I haven't got something else. But if you had to do something essential, important, leave. And you're not sinning even if you had to leave just like that, because he did not take your prior permission. Fadal.
Just to clarify, you said that if somebody passes through the place of prostration, the three categories, is that saying the place of actual prostration or the place where...
The place of the prostration. So if a person sees someone praying for no sutra, no shield, all he does, imagine that where he would be prostrated, and then he passes, no problem. So, but that person who hasn't taken a sutra, he lost two things. Number one, he sinned because he hasn't taken a sutra. Number two, he is exposing his prayer to be jeopardized, or at least to be decreased in reward. Half of his prayer will be gone if someone passed between him and his prostration place. Now,
can you change your niyya for a prayer? So, if you're praying Asr, the niyya is Asr, and then you forgot that you prayed Dhuhr.
Can the person change his niyyah from the Asr? He should not. Should start from Dhuhr again. So if you made your niyyah at the beginning of the takbir, you cannot change your niyyah to something else. Now,
if your sutra moves, how can somebody move to another sutra, and how far can you move?
if your sutra has moved, you could move with your sutra as long as it's not going to take you outside your prayer. If somebody sees you that he's not praying, he's playing, that's something else. So if you are moving a bit, no problem. But if now, person has walked and you're walking behind him while you're praying, person looking at you would say he's not praying. So you're taking you outside the form of a prayer. So you have to be in a way that if a person looks at you, he would still say that you are what? Praying. That means too much movement. So so the best thing, if you have this person, you have no walls beside you or in front of you, and you are in the desert, the person left, what are you going to do? Stay put. Because there's no sutra. But if you are in a place where the wall is on the right, you could move to the right, leave that person. Or the pillars on the side, on the left, you could move to that person. Now,
If you come late and you're praying behind the imam and you have
if you're praying behind the imam and you have 2 rak'ah, 1 rak'ah is left and the imam is finished, still the Imam sutra your sutra to the end of your prayer. Now, don't move, that means.
Can the adult woman break salah for adult woman as well?
The women break the salah for any human being, whether it is a woman or a man. Except for, well, if it's a child prayer, the child is not being to be asked to do the prayer. It's not compulsory upon him. Now,
Yes, as you said, the Imam Sutra is your Sutra even if you're late. So if somebody is passing in front of me then?
if you are behind the Imam, it doesn't matter if you let women, donkeys, and black dogs pass in front of you and the other row. Do you understand that?
Okay, for me to pass in front of anybody praying, who is coming?
Who is worse, you or the donkey? Come on, brother. I said to you, donkeys, black dogs, and women count between the rows. Allah ibn Abbas used to have his donkey, and when he comes to the prayer, the Prophet of Allah to the masjid, because the masjid hasn't got any walls from the sides, he could really go to the back. He used to go with his donkey between the rows, and then he parks his donkey, like you park a car, and then he joins the prayer. Now, hang on a second, you asked. Yes?
Regarding the Prophet said when someone prevent him 2 times and then he fight him, is that a command to fight him?
Is that a command to fight him? Yes, it's a command because you want to prevent him to pass between you and your sutra. It's either a shaitan or he's got a shaitan, or whatever it is, you fight him. Now, as I said, even if you fought him and you have injured him, that injury is not retaliated. So you fight him. But as I said, that is as well to do with maslaha and mafsada. What is the mafsada if, for example, I did something to him? Maybe I'm in a place where I'm not going to be guaranteed safety. Maybe that person is bigger than me. So I have to be as well, sensible about what we're doing. Okay? So when you say that you fight him as well with other issues as well around you. What is more convenient? What is more or less harmful to you? Do you understand me? So if it is the case to go forward and leave it go, or if you can't do anything about it, he has to pass. Like let's say, for example, there are the soldiers. Can't do anything. He's got a gun, he's got something. I can't do anything. So I let him pass. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give him guidance or to do what is suitable to that person. Fadal. You cannot delay. The Imam is too fast in the prayer. If it's too fast, that means if his prayer is jeopardized, leave him. Don't pray with him. Detach yourself, pray in your own. But if he's fast, but not too fast, you cannot delay. Don't delay because you're going to jeopardize your prayer. Fadal.
If someone wants to fast 6 Shawwal, but he didn't complete the whole Ramadan because of his traveling and so on, can he make the niyyah for the Siyam 6 Shawwal and the days he left, he missed from Ramadan?
The day?
So he wants to make the niyyah for the 2.
You can't make the niyyah of the 2 if you want to get the reward. Because the reward says that you have to finish Ramadan and then start 6 Shawwal. And I said number of times, I think it's here as well. I said that you have to finish Ramadan. There's no problem to combine, but you're not going to get the reward. So you could combine the 6 days of Shawwal with a vowed days. You vow to fast 6 days in the month of Shawwal. You could combine the vowed days, which is compulsory, plus your 6 days of Shawwal, no problem. You could combine them with the Ramadan days, but you're not going to fulfill the hadith, he who fasts Ramadan. I mean, to finish Ramadan. Then fast 6 days of Shawwal, it's like he will be fasting the entire year.
What about the wajib and the sunnah? Can you combine one?
Yeah, you could say. There's no difference among the scholars to combine something which is sunnah with obligatory. No problem about that. Do you understand? There's no problem, there's no difference among the scholars. So if you're praying, for example, now for rak'ah dhuhr, you include with that 2 rak'ah of Tahiyat al-Masjid and 2 rak'ah, no problem. But the problem is to put wajib with wajib. You can't, for example, combine vowed fast with Ramadan missed days. Do you understand that? Cannot do that. Now, did you know you asked the question? Hang on a second. Fadal. What happened to the person who passed between the sutra? Well, he sinned. And hopefully it's not a major sin, but he sinned because he said it's better for him to stay 40. Okay, now, who doesn't ask the question? Not the doctor.
So it is obligatory to take sutra. So if I see someone who did not take a sutra individually.
Good question. Yes, if I see a person, if I see a person who did not take a sutra, what should I do? I give him a sutra. And this is number of times happened. The Prophet ﷺ would teach his companions to correct the manner of the person. If, for example, he's got exposed from his awra, he could pull his clothes while he's praying. If he's praying not to the qibla, he could bring it to up to the qibla. And this is a number of times. So you could, if even the person is doing something wrong, you could talk to him while he was what? While he's praying. Tell him, you're wrong. Do this, do that. No problem, inshallah, because you correct him something with the prayer. Now,
just throwing back to the first question. The Imam recites the Fatiha too quickly and then goes to ruku, and then halfway through reciting the Fatiha, you stop reciting and go to ruku.
if the Imam has recited the Fatiha is enough for you, is enough. But I'm just saying, did he recite the Fatiha? So if you think that you recited the Fatiha, but it's quicker than you, no problem. But if it's like this, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, no way you recite the Fatiha. I mean, you can't do the Fatiha in that 1 second or 2 seconds. But there's a Fatiha like this. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. Sirata alladhina an'amta alayhim. Ghayri al-maghdubi alayhim wa lad-dallin. I said it fast. Where you may be halfway. So you make ruku with it. Na'am and then na'am.
When the woman, if the woman is in the haram and a man tries to pass by her, and can she put her hand out?
She could put her hand, of course. It's just like a person attacking her. What you should do? Stop. Now. Follow. Can you have more space? What? Sorry? In the Jama'ah or the Jumu'ah?
Sometimes when you pray in some masjid, there's so much space, and when, like you say, when you get close to it,
The brothers move, you can't do anything, just leave it. You can't move behind it because you're going to move and then God knows. So if you try it once or twice, leave him. Between the rows, make sure that as well, even though that the sutra imam is a sutra, make sure between the rows is not a big space as well. Some people, they would like to make take a row and a half size. You can't. Prophet says, وَقَارِبُوا بَيْنَ الصُّفُوفِ. Make sure between the rows is to be what? Close. Just like we do it here. Okay? Close. And this masjid, alhamdulillah, still holding to the sunnah. Ask Allah for it to hold to the sunnah. Because I've seen so many masajid who are Salafi based, but it looks like it's being given up to the pressure of the people. They started to make what? Lines. They're giving up to the pressure of the people. But this masjid, mashallah, is holding to the sunnah, and you can tell that the people are learning the sunnah. The rows, wallahi, is more straight than the rows who've got what? Lines in it. I've seen the ones with lines. They don't want the line, one on top of the line. Allah musta'an. So the line doesn't do anything, basically. And one other masjid which I've seen as well, two masjid, which is Masjid Brixton, and another masjid called Masjid al-Sunnah, is in Manchester, even though, like Masjid Brixton, they are what? Diagonal, not like this. This one is easier. Okay? Thanks to the synagogue, wasn't it? Towards the Qibla, subhanAllah. So that's diagonal. Because it's diagonal, it's difficult as well sometimes, but the people still, mashallah, for the sunnah, they know it. Now, last question, yalla.
Is it possible in Jama'ah if someone's next to you, can you signal him to come closer to you?
Yes, you could signal him, you could pull him.
Okay, you can pull it to the house again.
As long as, the same question here, you have to see the maslahah. If you see him too big, something that he might do like this to you, don't pull him. You could just make a gesture. If he does come. Because sometimes if you pull him, he will say to you, like that. And it happened. And he might lead the prayer, or he might step onto your foot, like he stepped on my foot, on the foot of my friend, not me. Foot my friend is a Yemeni person. He came out of the masjid limping. I've seen him. His name is Abdullah. I said, what happened? I had tried to put my foot next to the foot of so-and-so, which I know him. And he just did like this to my foot, deliberately. That man, I know him. So I went one day, and I happened, subhanAllah, that I was coming to the first rak'ah, and I joined the row where he was. Now, because I'm Jordanian, I'm not Yemeni, from the same country, he would not really step on my foot, he would not dare. But what he did was in the prayer, he left the prayer to the other side. To the other side. while he was praying. So he broke off his prayer, he went to the side. Then after that, I saw him and we talked to him as well, I can't remember. Now he loves the Sunnah. Alhamdulillah. This is one of the few examples, of course. Subhanakallah wa hamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.